Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Where are you guys joining us from? Hello, Dakota. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. How's it been? Dreamforce preparation and new ACB updates?
Yeah, so busy. Dreamforce is right around the corner. Things are in full swing. We're looking forward to hopefully putting together some great sessions for everybody. So yeah, highlighting ACB. It's going to be an exciting time.
Absolutely. Everyone is actually excited for ACB. I'm personally excited for ACB, the new releases. And we have been getting so many updates over the last few months. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is like finally you are going to go GA as well.
Yeah,
There's so much going around the ACB world.
so true. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Yeah, hopefully later this year we get a GA and yeah, these past few months have been a whirlwind. Just so many new and exciting features the team is delivering. We've been loving the engagement from our customers, our users. Yeah, everybody's just been providing just such great feedback. So yeah, hopefully we've been listening and adding new features. So
Yeah. We have few joining us. Hello, Ram. Hello, Prasad. Hello, George. Hello, Ayman. Gilami. Hello, Smith. Oh, that reminds me of a TDX party.
yeah, so
That was a
true.
fun night.
That was a
Hello,
blast.
Manik. Yeah.
Man, we got
Hoping to
people
have the
joining from
same
all over. This is so exciting.
all over the places. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let us know where you guys are joining us from. So I'm based in London and it's raining right now. It's been an awful summer, I would say. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It was bad. Like we barely had any sunny days or something. It was always raining, always cold.
That doesn't sound like summer.
It doesn't sound like summer at all. Probably
Yeah.
British summer, I would say.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, I'm here in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and it hasn't been too bad. Yeah, so it's been a pretty mild summer, I'd say.
Oh, okay. Yeah, looking forward to it. Like in 2 weeks,
Yeah,
hopefully we get some sunny days.
so true.
Okay, we have people joining us from Mumbai,
Oh, the Netherlands,
Netherlands.
nice. Yeah, I
Nice.
was just there last year. Yeah, I have a friend that lives in The Hague.
And he's from
Great
Rotterdam,
place.
where there is a tulip festival and everything.
Yes,
Wow,
yes,
I want to be there. Manik is in Pune.
nice.
Nice.
Enjoy the British weather. I love it.
Yeah. People are joining us from US, Vishakhapatnam, which is in India. They are having a rainy day as well. It's just not me. Yeah, we do have Dreamforce sessions. We have many Dreamforce sessions which are focusing on Mule, AI, so many new stuff. Dakota is having many sessions focusing on
True.
ACB,
I think we have 5 sessions or so
five
lined up for
sessions.
ACB. It's going to be so busy.
And you can also watch those sessions on Salesforce Plus TV, the live channel as well. Some of the sessions. I'm sure Sabrina will be posting this information soon in few days. Okay. So I'm sure most of you guys, you know Dakota. Dakota and Simon, the people, the superstars behind ACB. But I would like you to introduce yourself, Dakota.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. My name's Dakota Garcia. For those who don't know me, I work alongside another PM. Her name's Simone Guide, and we work on the Anypoint Code Builder product. So yeah, I've been with MuleSoft for a little over 2 years now. I originally started off on Composer. If any of you folks are familiar with that product, helping to build out some connectivity there. And yeah, made the switch over to ACB. We're ramping that product up, and it's been a super exciting ride ever since. So yeah, based here in the Bay Area for anybody new who just joined, and yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. I wasn't knowing you're previously working with Composer. That's a news for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it
it's
was
a
a
big
fun
switch.
time. Yeah, big switch. Yeah, going from a no code tool, very focused on the UI and enabling, just sort of
Enabling.
the business admins, and yeah, then transitioning over to a more code heavy tool is very different.
Okay. And I'm Akshata Sawant, developer advocate at Salesforce, focusing on MuleSoft, you know me. So yeah, we are having a few questions. We'll take them as we progress. To get started today, I guess we are going to, we have been getting like lots of updates, new updates on the ACB side. So what are you going to show us today, demo, like as a demo?
Yeah. So we'll jump into the product. I'm sure some folks have seen Anypoint Code Builder before. Maybe there's some folks out there and this is their first experience with the product. So we'll take a look at sort of the couple entry points that you could come in and start using the product. And then we'll dive into a quick demo. Today's session is a little bit more focused on what we recently released for August. So there's a couple new and exciting things. I don't want to spoil the surprises just yet, but yeah, we'll take a look at some of the things that we released in August. We'll do a quick demo and we'll build the flow together. It's not going to be overly complex. It's mainly just to sort of demonstrate the capabilities that we launched. And then after that, we'll wrap up. We'll talk about where we're going, obviously Dreamforce, GA, and everything after that, some of the features we're working on. And yeah, that's what we have in store for today.
So let's get started.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. Let me share my screen and we can get going here.
Hello, Edgar. We have a lot of folks joining us today. Wow.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
That's good. A lot of excitement about ACB, hopefully.
There's always an excitement about ACB. The last time we did with Sawant, it was like such a hit, and we were like, it's nice. Are you sharing a screen?
Not yet. Sorry, I'm looking at my other monitor. I had to rearrange some windows.
No worries.
Here.
Take your time. Sorry.
All right. It should be coming through here shortly. Hey, look at that. Perfect. Yeah, let me know, folks, if anything's not coming through clearly, if you need me to zoom in, anything along those lines, definitely reach out in the chat. We can make adjustments on our side. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it. So
I can see the Anypoint platform screen.
Perfect. That's good. Yeah. That's where we want to be. So yeah, let's start off here. So logging into the Anypoint platform, you'll notice, for those who are unfamiliar, we have a tile here called Anypoint Code Builder. If you click on the Get Started link, this is going to take you right to our landing page. From here, you'll see we have two different versions of ACB, which is one of the new and exciting things that we launched for August. We have Anypoint Code Builder for desktop. So anybody who has used Anypoint Code Builder in the past, they're more familiar with sort of our cloud version. So if I come to this page, I can boot up an instance. It's going to run sort of in my browser and I can do my development from there. But we've had so many people reach out and request and say, hey, I want something on my local machine. I'm using VS Code locally. When are you going to bring it to the desktop? So with August, we're starting our beta of Anypoint Code Builder for desktop. You can come to this page and it's going to be available locally in the Visual Studio Code Marketplace. Yeah. So if we take a look, I can click on the install button. It's going to take us right to the marketplace. You can install VS Code from here. You can install the extension pack. One thing that I'll note is that this is called the Anypoint extension pack. It's not the Anypoint Code Builder extension pack, nothing like that. It's just the Anypoint extension pack. And it'll be under the verified Salesforce publisher. So yeah, don't download Anypoint from anywhere else. Yeah, Salesforce publisher is what you want to look for. And then from here, there's just some more information. It is going to be an extension pack. I think we have 6 different extensions or so in the pack.
Yeah, so we have Data Weave as well, and there are different extension packs. Or you're saying about the Anypoint extension pack itself?
Yep. So it's super exciting. So we already have 235 installs. Definitely feel free, go around, play with it, give us a review, give us your feedback. We're definitely monitoring any sort of Q&As, questions, comments people leave on this page. So yeah. And you can also, I'm going to bring up my other screen here. So this is Visual Studio Code. I'm running this locally on my machine. This isn't in the cloud or anything like that. Let me hide this real fast. There we go. So this is Visual Studio Code running locally, and you can see that I have the Anypoint Code Builder extensions installed. If you don't want to go through sort of the web page to install the extension pack, you can just come here and look for Anypoint, and let me search for this. And you'll see one of the first options that pops up is the Anypoint extension pack. I already have it installed, but you can view more information, see all the different extensions that are included in this pack. One thing to note, or I guess a couple things to note, is if you want Anypoint Code Builder to run smoothly, you're going to need to install all of the extensions. So if you only install, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of these, it's obviously not going to work very well. So make sure you're installing the pack completely. And this will show up in a pre-release, I believe, is how VS Code classifies it. So when you go to download it, it's going to ask you which version you want to download, whether that's the release version or the pre-release version. So just make sure you're choosing the pre-release option, because if you choose the other one, it throws an error. The VS Code Marketplace is a little weird. Even though we don't have like an actual like published version, it still lets people like pick that option for some reason.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I recently tried this beta version. I mean, I think 2 weeks back when you introduced me to it, and it's really smooth, similar to what. So, and it's, I guess, open beta for all. Is there anyone in the audience who has already tried VS Code plugin Anypoint extension pack? Okay. I guess they are still getting on it. We just released it like last week, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned,
Yeah, just last week. Another thing to note, there's a couple of prerequisites. So I mentioned making sure that all of the extensions were installed. Folks will also need to have Git installed as a prerequisite. So if you're already using VS Code, you most likely already have Git installed just to work with some of your other projects. But if not, just make sure you go ahead and install that. We have a tutorial video sort of in our documentation that walks you through sort of the end-to-end installation process. If you don't have VS Code at all, we put together, just a tutorial video to help folks sort of jump into it. And the other thing to note is that right now, the Anypoint extension pack, because I'm sure we're going to have some folks in the comments that are about ready to jump in, like, why can't I download it? Right now, it is only available for Mac users. So it doesn't matter if you're on ARM or if you're on Intel. As long as you're on a Mac, you should be able to download the extension pack. The beta for the Windows version, Windows 10 and 11, should come sometime next month. So we're finalizing the release date in September, but the beta for Windows is just right around the corner.
That's amazing. So we have a few questions as well. Do you want me to take them now as we go, or we can take them in the end?
Yeah, let's take them as we go.
Okay, and there's one from Ram, like, hey, is it based on Monaco ID, which powers VS Code?
Sorry, what was the tool?
Monaco ID.
It is not, or at least it should not be. I'm not too familiar with that, and I don't recall, working with the dev team on anything like that. So, but if it powers VS Code, maybe it is running behind the scenes. Obviously, we support like different like themes and any of the extensions and functionality of VS Code. So if that's more of a tool set running behind the scenes, then maybe we are leveraging that.
Okay. And do we need any specific hardware configuration or requirement?
Yeah, great question. Nothing specific. So obviously the better hardware you have, the better it's going to run. But I'd say ideally, just based on my experience, nothing, super official.
Nothing fancy,
probably 8 gigs of RAM, maybe, an i5 or i7 chip. The M series chips on the Macs are running really well. So if you have an M1 or an M2, those are running super well. But nothing crazy that's required.
Cool. No. And I mean, it's too early to ask the demo, but in the future, future release we'll be having an Apex extension for ACB, directly invoke Apex from Mule.
Okay, that's pretty far out there. So I'd say not anytime soon.
Yeah, but definitely you can drop in suggestions,
For sure.
and maybe the product team will pick it up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we love feedback, especially here in beta. If you have ideas for features, if you have ideas for just how to improve the extension as a whole, definitely, let us know, because that's the goal of the beta, right? Is to be able to make changes.
And we have a GA dates as well, which is going to be like around October 24. Yeah, we should be having a forward-looking statement as well,
Yeah. We'll preface all of this and make your purchasing decisions and all of that based on what's available now. But GA should be middle of October. Obviously, the dates might be flexible here and there, but middle of October is really what we're aiming for GA. And when we go GA, it'll be GA of the desktop version.
Oh.
So the cloud version will remain in beta for a little bit longer. So
cool. That's nice. So let's get started with our demo, I guess. We don't have any more questions. Yeah, we're good.
So we'll start from the top. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my Anypoint Code Builder tab. So yeah, once again, that's just the Mule icon here on the left-hand side. And really with Anypoint Code Builder, we wanted to focus on 3 main user journeys. So whether that's designing an API, building out the implementation for that API spec, or building out integrations between the systems that, matter most to your business, that's really what we wanted to focus on. So we have different tutorials for each of those user journeys. And you can see here along the left-hand side, the quick actions are really where you're going to go ahead and get started. So today, we're going to be going through a couple of them, at least designing an API and implementing it. And that's all going to help facilitate what we also released in August, which was secure properties.
Yeah.
So this was something that folks who I'm sure are familiar with Anypoint Code Builder have seen us do demos in the past. I'm sure they always saw like, okay, we're plugging in demo credentials and clear text. And, I think as we're in beta, people are like, okay, we'll give you a pass because it's a demo and you're in beta, but there's no way without secure properties I would ever use this in a production environment. And so we wanted to bring secure properties into ACB, obviously, before we GA. And so that was another huge release for us in August. So that's really what we're going to be working with today's demo.
Cool.
And yeah, it's super exciting. We're using the same tool as Studio. And I don't know, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's just jump in.
Let's just go and design.
Yeah. I'm like, we'll figure out where the tool is and the process here in a second anyways. So okay, here we have designing an API. That's where we're going to start. So for today's demo, I want us to design an API. All it's going to do is return back a value. And then when we first start out, it's going to be an unencrypted value. We'll use the tool, we'll encrypt it. And then it should turn back like a decrypted value from there. So I want to start with my API spec, and we'll just call this Twitch demo.
Cool.
Yeah, super creative. And for specification language, I'm going to go ahead and just set this to RAML. And Anypoint Code Builder does support business groups. But for today's use case, I'm just going to go ahead and use my root organization. So we'll click on Create Project here. And in just a few seconds, it's going to go ahead and create my RAML file. You can see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, it's sort of spinning that up. And now if I come over here, we have sort of our blank RAML file.
Yeah.
And from here, this is part of the design phase or designing an API for Anypoint Code Builder. So we have a few different tools that we can leverage. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, we have what's called our API console. You also have the option to iterative scaffold, which we'll talk about here in a second. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm a fan of that.
Yeah. Let me, I'll throw my spec in. So I already have one pre-built just so that folks aren't having to watch me code and that I could test this sort of beforehand. So let me grab my specification here and we'll talk about it.
Cool.
So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And just for fun, I'm going to open up our API console. And like I said, super simple API. What we have here, we just have a regular JSON API. It's going to support HTTP, HTTPS, and we just have one endpoint and one object we're dealing with. And the object is a value, and we're just going to return a value from this. It'll be a string, and we have one endpoint, which is just a get. So once again, this is nothing super fancy, but it's going to make today's demo a little bit easier. And yeah, we'll go through it. So here on the right-hand side, like I said, this is our API console. So you can view information about your endpoints that you've created. We also have a mocking service. If you want to try it out, you can do that. And it's going to dynamically build this documentation as you're coding. So we know that developers in the API world, one of the biggest things that folks are struggling with, whether it's at the organization level or at the individual developer level, is documentation. Everybody likes to write the code, but nobody really likes to write the documentation. So we're trying to make that as easy as possible so that as you're writing your code, we're just automatically generating that documentation over here on the right-hand side.
Do we have that feature now?
We do. Yeah. So that's available now today. As you're writing out your API specs, if you just click on this icon in the upper right-hand corner, it'll pop open this window in VS Code, and you can test it out.
That's amazing.
Actually, just for fun. I think we have plenty of time here, so I can just show a better example of how this works. Let me pull it open.
And we have a question. When is this GA for? It's GA in October, mid-October. You can expect more updates at Dreamforce as well about ACB. So stay tuned.
Yes, lots of exciting stuff. All right, let's paste this in. And let me refresh here. Bingo. I just want to show the power of this documentation tool. So here I have a different spec that I've written. It deals with a contact object. So if somebody wants to create a contact or retrieve a contact, anything along those lines, I've built out endpoints for it. And we have different parameters for the contact object. You can see I just pasted in that spec, and I already have all of my definitions for these endpoints. So if I want to look at how to create a contact, I click on post. Here you can see I have the example body that I've defined. I have all of the parameters, whether they're required, whether they're not required, what their data type is, sample responses. So if I have a 200 response or a 400, what those would be. And yeah, and if I wanted to try out the mocking service, all I have to do is click on try it. And I'm going to switch this to mocking service. I can click on send, and you can see that it returns back. This one returns an error because it's trying to find the resource that doesn't exist. But this is a good thing, right? This is why we have the mocking service, so that if you have any errors, it's going to come through here. So yeah. So that's a quick demo about the mocking service as a whole. But yeah, let me undo here and save. This is the original spec that we were working with. What was that?
Yeah, this is the original one, the simple one.
Exactly. Yeah, just super simple, just for secure properties. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. From here, I've defined my API spec. We're going to move on into the implementation phase. So I want to take this endpoint, this get endpoint, and I want to build out some backend logic for it. So to do that, I have a couple of different methods that I can use. I can iterative scaffold. And what this is this icon in the upper right-hand corner. Also, we have a command for it. So if you're a fan of VS Code and the different commands, as part of ACB, you can see that we have several different commands that folks can leverage if they're familiar with that workflow. So on a Mac, it's Command-Shift-P will open up the commands window. And then, yeah, if you just look for MuleSoft, like I'm doing here, you can see all of the various commands that we have. And so, like I was mentioning before, with iterative scaffolding, this basically allows you to start working on your project without having to publish to Exchange, which is huge. If I want to build out my logic beforehand, let's say I build out an endpoint or I define an endpoint in my API spec, and then if I want to start my implementation process, I then have to publish that to Exchange as maybe like a V1, and then only then, you know, I pull it in and I can start building out the backend workflow, adding my components in Studio, things like that. But let's say I want to add another endpoint. Okay, well, now I have to go back to my API specification. I add my new endpoint. I have to republish to Exchange. I have to pull in that new asset, and then I can start working with that new endpoint in, say, Studio. And with ACB, you no longer have to do that. You can do both at the same time. So I can seamlessly switch between sort of my design aspect and my implementation aspect. Within the same window.
That is actually the coolest part, because otherwise we had to like go back and forth from Exchange to Anypoint Studio and then sync changes, and oh my god, that was a pain. And this is like, yeah, we can actually see while we're demoing it.
Yeah,
but I'm so excited for it.
yeah, it's awesome. For today's demo, though, I know I hyped it up. I think I'm going to stick with publishing to Exchange, just because actually we'll try it. We're on a stream. We'll see how it goes. The reason I want to publish to Exchange is because we're eventually going to deploy this application to Cloud Hub. So at some point during today's process, we will sync this and publish to Exchange. But let's just go ahead and take a look at iterative scaffolding. So I've clicked that button, and what this is going to do is it's going to create a VS Code workspace. I'm going to create this workspace in sort of the parent directory of where my API specification lives. Click on Save. And in VS Code, the workspace concept, this isn't something that's specific to ACB. The workspace exists, just as a Visual Studio Code concept. It's going to allow me to have multiple projects open sort of at the same time. And we'll see that here in a second. So it's creating my workspace, and then it's going to ask me to give my implementation project a name. So we'll call this Twitch Demo Implementation. making sure I spelled everything right. And I will give this a directory. And now you can see that we're scaffolding. So I didn't have to publish anything to Exchange, nothing like that. It's going to go ahead and spin up a pre-configured sort of maybe background, or what's the word I'm looking for? Scaffolding is really the best way to describe it. So if I open up my source main mule here, you can see, and this is going to look really busy for just a second, but I'm just doing this for demo purposes. What you can see here is under my workspace, I have my API specification, my RAML file. And at the same time I have my RAML file open, I also have my implementation piece. So I can view my XML code. I can start to define any of my business logic for the endpoints as part of my API specification. All of this is happening dynamically.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah. And so let me let's write a different endpoint here, and I'll show you how the rescaffolding works, because that's really where you get the benefit of iterative scaffolding. So we're doing this live. I originally hadn't planned to demo iterative scaffolding, but then you got me excited about it, so we'll do it. Okay, let's see if we add, I'm just going to try and copy this and we'll see if it throws any errors here.
Are we adding a get post method or something?
Yeah, exactly. We'll just add a post method. But sometimes it doesn't like the blank space here.
Yeah, the indentation, we have to be careful.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to take that contact that I had earlier, and I'm going to close my UI just so we can do this at the same time here. So we'll add a post. We'll just say create new value, and type, we're going to give this.
You can just add it as application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think I copied too much in here. I think this might be value.
Okay.
We're doing it live, so this is bound to happen.
It's about to happen, yeah. And this is like the best part of Twitch. We're completely candid.
Yeah, exactly. I figured, we're all here to see it in action, and yeah, we'll see. Let me delete my responses here, and now I'm just creating all kinds of errors because I just want my new endpoint here. And type defines the data type. What happens? I don't know. Let's give this a shot. So I added this, and I've clicked save. This is just a post method. And over here on the right-hand side, if I open up sort of the UI here, once again, this is going to like look messy just because we have so many windows open.
Okay. I just have one question for the audience. Okay, have you guys seen any difference, like before actually, like in the symbol, like what is the next step we're going to do, or something like a guess kind of thing? Because this is actually like the coolest part, I mean, that I came across as well. And it works like magic.
Yeah.
Anyone in the audience wants to guess, like, do you see any difference on the screen right now, like from what we had done before? And is there some new symbol or something which has like popped up just right now?
That's a question for the audience, right?
Yeah, that's a question for the audience.
Yeah, okay, cool.
My Flow printed this. Okay, hello from ACB Flow. That's nice, Manik. You're trying with us.
Nice. Working alongside.
Okay, I think our audience have missed the clue. So you can just go there. Yeah.
So because we added something new to our RAML file and we click save, you'll notice that we basically highlighted here at the top. We've highlighted these in yellow, indicating that there is a change, and we're offering sort of this additional button now, which is rescaffolding the local API. So we added an endpoint, and if we wanted to, we could rescaffold it, and it will automatically pull in all of the changes that we made to the RAML file.
Yeah. I feel like having drum rolls here.
I know. Yeah. It's
to just unveil rescaffolding feature, which is like so good.
Yeah.
So once
we'll
you
see.
click,
Yeah, we click it. It's going to start building and scaffolding. It might throw an error just because I'm not sure if I defined that other endpoint correctly. Oh, look, it works. Just like that, it pulled in this additional endpoint. So now I can start building out my backend logic for my post request. And I didn't have to publish a new version to Exchange. So just to recap how awesome that was, is we essentially had this endpoint here. We added it, or we had our get endpoint originally. We added the post endpoint. And then when we started building out our backend logic, we rescaffolded and it pulled in that new endpoint automatically. Like there was no publishing to Exchange, no pulling in a new version, nothing like that. I can just start building out what I need to right away and make changes sort of as I need to.
Drum roll, please.
Yeah. And so with that, let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm gonna start from scratch. We showed iterative scaffolding, but this post endpoint makes me a little nervous when we actually go to like deploy it and things like that, just because I haven't played around with it. So let me close this and we'll just start fresh. We'll give this a second to reload here. And so, yeah, that's something we're working on as well. So I know some folks might try to jump in, and right now, sometimes the extensions take a few seconds to boot up and load. So you might get sort of an error down here at the bottom right saying, hey, this isn't installed, it couldn't be found. It's just the extension starting up. We're working on making that a better experience. It's just part of sort of the beta improvements that we're going through. So if you hit that small little error at the bottom right that says, hey, we can't find a particular component, just give it a couple seconds and then it'll load for you. And like I said, we're working on making that better. But I know that's a common thing folks should run into. We'll call this Twitch demo 2. And we'll go back to Raml, create a project. And now let's start with our secure properties demo.
Cool.
So we'll use that original specification that we had earlier. That's really just a GET request. Throw this in. Save. Okay.
Just to get method. Yeah.
Perfect. Can you still see me okay?
Yeah, I can see you. I think if camera was frozen or it was me, I don't know. But yeah, I can see you.
Okay, great. Interesting. 1 second here. Yeah, my second monitor just died. But as long as you can see me, we'll keep going.
Yeah, I can see you. And I can see I've copied get method.
Okay. And
so we have a lot of comments like it would be great if we have auto-generated MUnits as well. I guess we should be having them in the future, right?
Yes. So MUnit is one of the top requested features.
Yeah. Thanks, Sudhir, for bringing it up. And also, there are questions about AI auto documentation plug in future. I'm sure that should be in pipeline. And there's a lot of things coming on AI, about AI. Yeah, AI is coming.
Yeah, AI is definitely coming. But yeah, MUnit we'll talk about that sort of at the roadmap slide at the end, but it's definitely feedback that we've heard from a lot of folks like, hey, MUnit's great. We need an MUnit test to come into ACB. So yeah.
Cool.
Let me go ahead. So what I'm doing now is I'm pushing my changes to the VCS system. And we might get a small error here. But let me resync. We should be good to go. Perfect. Okay, so all my changes have been synced to VCS. If you're a fan of API Design Center, once you sync your changes here in Anypoint Code Builder, you'll have access to that specification within Design Center. So if you wanted to leverage that, just while we're building out additional functionality in ACB that might not exist or that already exists in Design Center, that may not exist in ACB, if you want to leverage that, just make sure to sync your changes, and then you can start working with that specification. And then from here, now that I've sort of synced my changes, I'm going to publish this to Exchange. So what you just saw me do there is Command-Shift-P. It opened up that command window. And it's going to give me a few different prompts here at the top that it wants me to set as part of the publishing process.
Mm-hmm.
And here at the bottom right-hand corner, we can now see that we're publishing this API spec to Exchange. And once this is done, it's going to ask me if I want to implement my API, which is just very similar to iterative scaffolding. I'll be able to start building out my backend logic.
Great. And we have a question, not a question,
Yeah.
a suggestion actually. A CI/CD demo would be awesome as well. So,
True.
do we
Yeah.
have any? I mean, how about the MUnit, Mule Maven plugin and everything? Are we able to configure it? Are we able to connect it with CI/CD?
So we should be able to. That's not a use case that we've tested in depth yet. So definitely give it a go. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
I think and it's something that we recognize as well. MMP and CI/CD pipelines are just the way that a lot of folks are moving. So we want to be able to support a lot of those different options.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So we published to Exchange. Now we're going to start the actual build out on the back end here. And what we can see, so we have two different windows or view panes here. On the right-hand side, we have sort of our XML view. On the left-hand side, we have our graphical canvas. So we'll give that a second to load here, and we can start going through it.
I just have a question while it's loading. Yeah. We don't have to publish to Exchange. If we are just building the application, right? If we have to build and deploy, only then we have to publish it to Exchange, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So since we'll be deploying, that's really why we publish to Exchange. But if you just want to build, test, debug, we bundle a runtime with this extension pack. So if that's really what you're focused on, you can do all of that through iterative scaffolding, and then at the very end, publish.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. So if folks tuned in to the earlier ACB demos this year, this was only read only. So folks could basically just see a visual representation of the XML code that they were writing, but they couldn't really interact with it. And over the past few months, we've definitely made some improvements. So now you can see that I can toggle between my flows, my subflows. I can click the plus button. I can add a variety of different things, whether that's a core processor. I can add connectors, snippets. Any of that stuff through the UI. I can search for connectors in Exchange. We've just made so many UI updates and more are to come. But I just wanted to call out that it is no longer read-only.
That's amazing. I guess snippets are something which are new for us, but the VS Code users, the native users, they are quite familiar to using snippets and all. So would you like to tell us something about snippets, like the user snippets and the default snippets?
For sure. Yeah. So here at MuleSoft, we're a big fan of code reuse, and Visual Studio Code helps to enable us to take that a step further with what they call snippets. And snippets are either prepackaged bits of code, or they're code that you as a user define that you want to be able to easily reuse in the future. So here, if we go to the settings tab, we can go to user snippets down here. And if we open that up, you'll now see that you have a snippet file for MuleSoft. So this Mule XML JSON. If we open that up, this is just some snippets that I've been working on in the past, and they're bits of code that I want to be able to easily use in my future projects. So I can come here back to our flow, and if let's just go to that endpoint, click on the plus icon. This third option is snippets. And then we have sort of the two different options I was talking about. So if we pre-bundle snippets for you, they're going to show up in the pre-built section. So these are all snippets that are built by MuleSoft that you can leverage. They'll come, like I said, pre-bundled with the Anypoint Code Builder extension, or like we just saw, you can define your own. So if I wanted to use any of those snippets that I just had, I can choose them here.
That's cool. And can we also have?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Can we also have a snippet file which will be having some Mule built snippets as well? Can we combine a few pre-built snippets into a user snippet?
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to take, basically, you can take any of this XML code. So if you have a bunch of pre-built snippets that you've already inserted into your project, and say you have like a choice or a transform that you're just using all the time, basically you can just copy this XML code, paste it into that snippets file, and then no matter which project you use through ACB, it will always be available in sort of this user snippets folder here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, let's keep rolling here. For today's demo, like I said, we're going to keep it super simple, especially because we took some detours along the way here. I'm going to click this plus button, and I'm going to add a core processor. I'm going to do a transform, and I'm just going to do a set payload. And trim that space there. And really, we're going to move into the next part of the demo today, which is secure properties. So typically, when we used to demo, we would come to the resources folder. We would do a new file. We'd probably name this something like config.yaml.
Mm-hmm.
And we would do something like test. Then we would do like value. And test value. Something like that, right? And save. And then if we come into our XML here, we would do command or control space, and I would insert a snippet for, or piece of code for my configuration properties. And I would just do like config.yaml.
Cool.
And say I wanted to reference that, that property, I could just do, let's see here. I think I have my syntax off here. 1 second. And I think it's $. And curly brace.
Curly braces.
Yeah.
Typed up.
And then if we wanted to pull that, we could do test
value.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so that's how properties files would work sort of historically in the past, right? So it's pulling from my config.yaml file. I'm referencing it through the syntax. I did the hash thinking I was in expression mode, but yes, $, I think curly braces are is the correct syntax for referencing properties. And now if I hover over it, we can see that the value that this would return is test value. So we've basically just set our payload to return whatever we had defined in our configuration folder. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to debug this. I'm going to send a sample request. I just want to make sure that my endpoint is working as expected. And then once that's done, we can go ahead and do some secure properties.
Cool.
So like I was mentioning earlier, we bundle a Mule runtime with our extension pack. So if you click this little play button with the bug here, this is going to be our run and debug section. I can go ahead and click on this play button, and it's going to start my application. This is going to take a few seconds. I have Thunder Client installed as my sort of
REST client.
Yeah, REST client. Thank you. Yeah, I know Postman, I think, just released. I was a big fan of Postman, but having Thunder Client just installed as an extension to my VS Code instance makes things a lot easier because I can just hit localhost. And I know Postman just released a VS Code plugin, but I haven't had a chance to test it out yet.
Oh, yeah.
But so for today's demo, we're going to be using Thunder Client.
Yes.
Here in the terminal window, we can see sort of the status. Looks like everything deployed successfully. We didn't hit any errors. That's awesome. I would hope not. It's a pretty simple endpoint here. But let's go ahead and send a GET request to this. And perfect. It looks like it's returning our test value.
Test value.
Yeah. So that's great. Now let's do some secure properties. Let's do some encryption here.
Cool.
So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop my application, and we're going to take a little detour over to the web. And here we have our Anypoint Code Builder documentation. I'm going to zoom in here. I know it's a little small, but up here at the top, we have docs.mulesoft.com/anypoint-code-builder. And from there, this will take you to sort of our documentation overview. And if you want to learn more about secure properties, you can come down to our use cases. And from here, we have define and secure properties for a Mule application. And this is going to give you a lot of tutorials, information about what's accepted, what's not accepted. But really why we're going here is we need the tool. So this is a jar file that we need to download. So by clicking the hyperlink, it's going to go ahead and download that for me. It's going to be in my downloads folder. And this is a tool that we will use to, basically encrypt and decrypt values. One thing to note, like I said, we are supporting the secure properties tool. This was something that Studio also has. Granted, we're looking at improving this experience as well. So everything we do today is great and it's exciting. We're happy to bring secure properties to ACB, but we also recognize that this process could be better, maybe through a UI or something along those lines. So I know a lot of folks, sort of when I do this demo, they're like, okay, but can it be better? And the answer is yes. But for now, we are, we're going to be using this tool. Okay. So for this tool, I'm going to open up my terminal window here. Let's just start with a new terminal, just so that it's clean. I'm going to change my directory here to my downloads folder, because that's where the tool lives. So you want to change your directory to wherever you've downloaded this tool or saved it. And then we have a particular command that we need to run here. So let me pull that open and we'll talk through it. There it is. So let me copy that. We're going to paste it in here. Okay. So this is going to throw an error because I copied everything in there. Let me just run a new terminal. There we go.
Okay, see.
Okay, perfect. I copied my header, which I don't need to. It's not part of the commands. So there we go. This looks better. So we're going to invoke this jar file, and essentially what it's asking us to do here, what we can define is, what are we doing? We're going to be encrypting. We're passing in a string value. So these are all fields that you can configure or set. We have our algorithm. So for the encryption algorithm we're using today, it's going to be called Blowfish. And then we have our mode as well. So if you're just going to play around with the tool, I recommend just like leaving these four as is. And then sort of once you're familiar with the tool, you can go ahead and start changing them. But really the most important things that users should leverage are these bottom two fields here. So this first one is going to be your encryption and decryption key. And then the second field is going to be the value that you want to encrypt. So for the demo today, let's just make our encryption key Twitch. Once again, super creative. And let's encrypt something like this. Like this is a secure value.
Okay.
Enter, and you'll see that it spits out an encrypted sort of string. So I can copy that. And if I come into my file tree here and I throw this into my config folder, we can do like secure value. And here, the thing to know is the syntax is a little bit different. So what you're going to want to do is put in your quotes here, and then it's exclamation mark. And then it's going to be in brackets, you'll put your encrypted value. So for folks who are unfamiliar or they're used to just working with regular properties, the syntax of putting in your secure values is going to be a little different in your properties folder.
Yeah, this is how it actually looks like when we are also doing it using the UI part. Like in the backend, this kind of key is generated.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to close my terminal window. We're kind of done with that. But that's the tool, right? So any values you want to encrypt, go ahead, take that command. All of the commands, the tool, the encryption, and the algorithms that we support, all of that's going to be available in the documentation. Once again, docs.mulesoft.com. And yeah, you could go ahead and play around with it. And once you've invoked the tool and have the values you need, you could throw them into your properties folder. once again, this is super simple demo. I know some folks have different property files for different environments. They might store their configuration, plain text or clear text properties in one file, and their secure properties files in a different file. But for the purpose of today's demo, we're just keeping it simple.
Cool.
So I'll go ahead and click save. And what we need to do in here is we need to add in. So this is part of what we added as for the August release to support secure properties is a pre-built snippet. So we talked earlier about how we at MuleSoft can pre-package bits of code that we think might be helpful for you as the user. And one of those is the secure configuration properties snippet. So let's go ahead and add that. One thing is if I want to see these recommendations in the XML, I'm hitting Control space. I'm on a Mac. So to open the command palette, it's Command Shift P. That's going to open up those commands that we saw earlier. But if you want to open up sort of these recommendations, it's Control space. So just helpful tips along the way. I know most folks try to do like Command space, and it doesn't do it.
Yeah, usually do Command space. And
I get so used to using the command palette, the Command Shift P, and then I'll try and open the recommendations, and yeah, I'm always hitting the wrong button.
That's something to note. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so here we have two files. We have the secure properties config, and then we can see that this is a snippet file because it's got a different icon. So this has like sort of a square with like some dots underneath of it. This indicates that it's a snippet, and it's the snippet that we've pre-bundled out of the box with ACB. You don't have to download anything extra. We've already filled out some of the information for you that just makes it a little bit easier to leverage secure properties. So if I click on that, you can see that we've gone ahead and we've added in a lot of things. Okay, here we go. Closing this. Okay. So this whole piece of code is our secure property snippet file or snippet that we inserted. So as you can see, we've given it a name. We've automatically filled in like the file, the encryption and decryption key, the algorithm that we're using. So once again, we use the secure properties tool and we chose Blowfish as our algorithm. So if you're using this snippet, just make sure to make updates accordingly. And that's what we're going to do here. Oh, and we're automatically adding in the dependencies. So there are dependencies that are needed for secure properties. By adding in this snippet, those dependencies are automatically going to get added to your project.
Cool.
So we need to make a couple tweaks here, or just one tweak really. It's going to ask us the file. Here it's asking for like an environment variable .secure.yaml. This is just sort of like more of a placeholder. I'm just going to do config.yaml because that's where I've stored my secure value. And for the key, we're going to go ahead and leave this as a variable, because if we put our encryption key here in the XML file, then what's the point of secure properties? Because you're storing everything in clear text anyways. So we'll keep that as a, we'll keep that as is.
Key.
Yeah, we'll keep it as a variable, and then we'll keep the rest as is here. Okay.
Cool.
So let's go ahead and move on. We're going to go back to our set payload. Earlier, we just referenced the value that we set up in our properties file. We're going to need to make some tweaks here. Once again, there's going to be a change in syntax. So first off, let me remember what this is.
We just have like 5 minutes more, and we also have a Q&A kind of thing. So.
Oh wow! Okay, we'll fly through. Actually, that's good time.
I mean, this was such an interesting one that even I lost track of time.
Yeah, same. Okay, so in the interest of time, we're going to change the syntax here. We're referencing this other file, but if we want secure properties to work, we're going to say secure : and then the reference to our property. If we do a hover over, it's not going to show the encrypted value, so that shouldn't be a problem. And I'm just double checking my, curly braces, secure : that should be good. Okay. Now we have to do one more thing. So if I debug this, if you remember up here at the beginning, we had a variable for encryption and decryption key. We need to pass that in at the runtime when we debug. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my settings, and I'm going to search for runtime. Here we have our runtime arguments. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. Once again, this is all in the documentation, but we're basically just giving a value for that variable earlier. And the encryption decryption key that we used was Twitch.
Twitch.
So this is just to debug. You don't have to do this when you're deploying, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So let's quickly run and debug this. And so hopefully, if all goes well, once this deploys, we'll be able to send our API request. We've passed that decryption key into the runtime. Nowhere have we referenced the plain text or the clear text of this is the secure value. So yeah, if everything runs as expected, when we hit this endpoint, it'll correctly decrypt it, and we should get that value back through the API. Okay, we're deployed. Yay. So let's send this. Perfect. There we go.
Yeah, this is a secure value. That's nice.
So we can see that, yeah, nowhere did we say, nowhere in our configuration properties folder or anything like that, do we have this is a secure value. All that we have stored is this encrypted value. So we can see that the encryption and decryption tool ran successfully. We've passed in the correct argument. It's correctly decrypted whatever the string was based on the algorithm that we chose, and it's passed that back through the API.
Amazing.
So yeah, we'll do the last step real fast here because this is going to be important for folks to know, which is how do I deploy this, right? And set my encryption decryption key on deployment. So what you're going to want to do is hit the rocket ship. If you're deploying, I'll say if you're deploying to Cloud Hub, this is going to open up your deploy.json, and you do need to add in this value. So let me copy this and paste it here. This is in, the deploy.json.
Okay.
Or actually, no, I'm not putting that in the deploy.json. Sorry. I'm putting this in the artifact, Mule artifacts is where this is going. So it's secure properties, and then encryption key. And what this is going to do, let me save this, and we'll deploy. So if you're deploying to Cloud Hub by adding this to the Mule artifact, if we go back, what you're telling it is, hey, when I go to deploy, you should ask me what my encryption decryption key is.
Oh, okay.
And so now when I hit my rocket ship to deploy to Cloud Hub, I now get this pop-up that says, hey, this is an encryption key. You need to provide it to us. And so in this case, I would just type in, it's going to be obviously in dots here, secured. But yeah, I would just type in Twitch. I would choose the environment that I want to deploy to. In this case, it would be Sandbox. And then it's going to go ahead and start that deployment process.
Amazing.
So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that last step of folks like adding that that syntax into the artifact.json. Otherwise, once you deploy your application, if you didn't add that, it wouldn't know what that decryption key is.
Amazing. So, that was an amazing demo, and I love it.
Thanks. Yeah, awesome. Good. I'm glad we took some detours and highlighted some features, but yeah, hopefully it kept it interesting for folks.
Yeah.
If we want to move on to Q&A or what's coming up, we can do
I personally have so many questions, and there are so many in the chat as well. But let's get the chat first. So yeah, Siva Vishwa, he is actually thanking us. Like he was actually looking out for the solution, and I mean the secure property one, and we have actually helped him. So there's some nice comments as well from Rahul Smith. Thank you. And yeah, we have a LinkedIn user saying, I think it's Sudhir, that will there be a trailhead module for ACB? I guess we should be having soon. We do have one, right?
I don't know if we have a trailhead module just yet, but we're definitely working on some, especially in preparation for GA. With definitely some of our user journeys, we want to make sure that folks are enabled, that they can self-serve content to help them feel comfortable with the product and understand the different use cases. So that, yeah, be on the lookout for that. We'll definitely be posting once those are available.
Amazing. And
one thing to note, sorry, don't mean to cut you off. I deployed to Cloud Hub here, so we can see in the runtime manager, I have this application running. And because we set that encryption key as part of our property and we patched in Twitch, it's going to remain encrypted, but it is being stored under the properties tab here for our application. So you can see that basically this would be Twitch behind the scenes here. But that's where the property gets stored.
Wow, that's cool. I have to try this out.
Sorry. Okay, back to the questions. I just wanted to highlight that real fast.
Yeah. So yeah, regarding the GUI thing, that is my question. So we'll be, I mean, for secure properties placeholder thing when we're configuring. So we'll be having a GUI coming up in the upcoming release.
Yeah, good question. So not for secure properties. Secure properties will probably remain in sort of its current state, at least for the near term. What we're looking to add is configuration for any of your components here. So you'll notice that sort of when I'm in my UI and I'm interacting with different components, there's no configuration window that pops up like there is in Studio. I can't change my metadata. It'd be nice if I had like a GUI where I can just set my property inside of it instead of having to do it in my XML. A lot of demand from our users is around when can I start configuring things within my project. And so that'll be sort of in our upcoming releases. That's really what we're focused on.
Great, cool. We have one more question. What is the trade-off to choose between choosing ACB versus APS? What is APS? Like Anypoint platform?
Oh, Anypoint Studio, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great question. Yeah, both IDEs will continue to exist for the time being. I'd say some of the trade-offs definitely come around sort of the UI and being able to configure things from within the UI, define connections. As you play with ACB, you'll start to realize you're doing a lot in the XML. Like I said, we're working to change that. Studio's been around a long time, many years. And so for us to have some of those features available in ACB is definitely just going to take a little bit of time. So I'd say in the short term, both IDEs are going to continue to exist. Try ACB. And if you're finding that you don't have the tools available that you need, then go ahead and switch on back to Studio for the time being. Yeah, no worries there. But eventually, yeah, ACB will be the primary IDE for MuleSoft.
And also, we don't want to reveal it yet at this point, but we are gonna have like so many AI features also coming around ACB. So for that, that's gonna be like next level excitement. And yeah, just stay tuned for Dreamforce and more updates. We'll be sharing so many AI features with MuleSoft at Dreamforce. So be there. If you can't, join us from using Salesforce Plus channel. We have one more question. Can we import the secure key directly from Password Vault?
No, yeah. So I don't think we would be able to import anything from Password Vault at this time. They'll need to be stored in some sort of a configuration properties file.
Yeah.
Great question.
There's also one more. Can we import existing Studio projects into ACB?
Yeah, so we're working on that. It's a lot harder to import Studio projects into ACB. You can try, but like I said, some of the functionality just isn't there. So you might encounter some errors if you have like a very robust Studio project. It just might not load correctly in ACB since not all of that functionality exists. But it's going to be a lot easier to go backwards. So we really want to enable folks to say, hey, try ACB. Okay, it's not meeting my use case. I want to export and then import into Studio. We're working, you can do that. And we're working on making that process even more of an easier transition for folks.
Yeah, that actually helps because even I tried importing a file which you sent, but I wasn't able to do it like easily. So yeah. Okay. Do we have any other questions? No, I guess we are almost done. But thanks a lot. It was like amazing demo, and I personally enjoyed it. And
good.
Thanks for being with us early morning.
No problem. Yeah, it's bright and early. All good. All good. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I think that's the most exciting part. We had folks from all over the world tuning in. So more than happy to get up and show off ACB.
So do try out ACB, and it's open beta, and do let us know your feedback. If there are any suggestions, feedback, improvements, we would love to hear from you guys. We can pass it over to Dakota, Sawant. Cool. All right, then. Thank you. You can watch all the recordings on Twitch TV, MuleSoft channel. And I'm sure you guys must be missing Alex. She'll be back next week. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Definitely feel free to give us your feedback. We love to hear it. So, looking forward to it. Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.